The surprising reason why serving others brings happiness. Teachings of Buddha. Hello everyone. Today, based on the teachings of Buddhism, I will talk about how serving others can bring us happiness. In our daily lives, we tend to prioritize our own desires and benefits. However, in Buddhism, it is taught that serving others leads to true happiness. Why is that? In this video, we will explore the reasons behind this and how we can experience happiness by dedicating ourselves to others. First, let's touch on the basic Buddhist concept of altruism. By understanding this idea, we can better grasp how serving others can bring peace of mind and a fulfilling life. Let's dive into the teachings through a story. Chapter 1: The Limitations of Living for Self-Gain. In ancient India, by the banks of the Ganges River, there was a town called Varanasi, where a young and successful merchant named Nanda lived. Nanda managed a large shop inherited from his father and was known as the wealthiest merchant in town. However, Nanda was so focused on pursuing profit that he started to evaluate relationships with others based on personal gain. He chose his business partners and friends based on what benefits they could bring him. One day, a traveler visited Nanda's shop. The traveler was exhausted and asked for water to quench his thirst. Nanda coldly replied, "Water is precious, and unless you pay, I won't give you any." The traveler reluctantly handed over some coins and received the water but left with a sad expression on his face. That night, Nanda had a strange dream. In the dream, he was wandering in a vast desert, suffering from unbearable thirst. No matter where he looked, there was no water, and just as despair was setting in, a small hut appeared before him. An old man was sitting in the hut, and Nanda begged him for water. But the old man said, "You can only have water in exchange for the good deeds you've accumulated." Nanda realized that he had no good deeds and woke up in a state of confusion. Chapter 2: The Downfall of Living for Self-Gain. The next day, after waking from his dream, Nanda opened his shop as usual, but not a single customer came. Perplexed, he walked around town and asked a fellow merchant what was going on. The merchant looked at him in shock and said, "There's a rumor going around that you charged a traveler for water yesterday. No one trusts you anymore." Nanda was devastated to learn that the traveler wasn't just an ordinary person, but someone with significant influence in the town. From that point, Nanda's business rapidly declined. No one wanted to deal with him, and even his close friends began to avoid him. Isolated and facing poverty, Nanda couldn't find a way to regain his former prosperity, and eventually, he was forced to close his shop. Chapter 3: The Power of Serving Others. One day, as Nanda led a solitary life in a small hut on the outskirts of town, the traveler from before appeared again. The traveler smiled and said to Nanda, "You still haven't realized it, have you? It's through serving others that true richness is gained." Moved by the traveler's words, Nanda deeply reflected on his life up until that point. He decided to accept the traveler's teaching and dedicate himself to a life of serving others. Nanda then placed a sign outside his hut that said, "Free water," and began offering water to travelers and townsfolk alike. At first, no one trusted him, but gradually, Nanda's sincere actions began to touch people's hearts. Soon, his humble hut became a gathering place for many. Chapter 4: Altruism and True Happiness. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called altruism. This is the idea that by prioritizing the happiness of others over ourselves, we too can attain happiness. In Buddhism, serving others is regarded as one of the highest virtues, and the peace of mind and happiness that comes from it surpasses any material gain. Through practicing altruism, Nanda also found peace of mind. By selflessly serving others, he began to feel an inner richness, and this attitude brought him new relationships and trust. Eventually, he found his path back to prosperity. Chapter 5: Liberation from Selfish Desires. At times, we become trapped by our own desires, measuring our relationships with others based on personal gain. However, living this way often leads to loneliness and unhappiness in the long run. Buddhism teaches that by letting go of selfish desires and dedicating ourselves to others, we can attain true happiness. Nanda, too, broke free from a life bound by self-interest and found inner fulfillment through serving others. His transformation had a positive impact on those around him, and eventually, he regained the trust of the townsfolk. Ultimately, he even contributed to the prosperity of the entire town. Chapter 6: How to practice serving others to achieve happiness. So, how can we incorporate serving others into our daily lives? It doesn't have to be grand gestures. Start by showing gratitude to those around you and practicing small acts of kindness. By acting for the benefit of others, a sense of fulfillment will grow within you, which will eventually lead to your own happiness. Finally, let's end with a quote from Buddhist teachings: "True happiness is found in forgetting oneself and serving others." This perfectly captures the essence of how serving others can bring us happiness. Thank you for watching until the end today. I hope the Buddhist teaching that serving others leads to self-fulfillment will be helpful in your life. Remember to continue showing kindness to others and cherish each day. See you in the next video.